on YouTube. This is a different kind of review. It's the first, I think, motorcycle review I've ever put on YouTube, and it's got a lot to do with the bike itself. I bought this bike after having an FJR, the FJR 1300. I had the VFR 1200X, and essentially what I was trying to do was get into a comfortable tourer, something that was big, didn't get blown around on the road. I had a CB 1100 before that and a C50, and I wanted something that was going to cruise down the road easy, and it does it. This thing does it better than any bike I've ever had, including the FJR. It's old, definitely some old 80s tech. If you look down here, there are 4 inline carbs. And anybody that's looking on YouTube right now that's thinking like, shit, I would love to have a cool retro bike, just remember that you have to either know a lot about bikes or you have to be willing to learn. And that second one was sort of me. I've definitely been frustrated by a lot of things that I've had to do with this bike. But if you look at it, I mean, you can see why I wanted it. The only problems I've had so far are finding a seat. And I think there's a kid on eBay that's gonna let me reupholster this, but it's an awesome bike. It comes with this little frunk. This does not work. And on most Voyager models, I think the run went from 86 to 03, but you're not gonna get many that have this cruise right here working. However, the stereo does work, and it works perfectly. 52,000 miles. It's a 5-speed. But it's geared like a 6, and this big ass windjammer style fairing on here, I've actually rode it to work in 19 degrees, and believe it or not, these carbs, they were outside, fired right up. It's an air suspension right here on the rear, but why does it have springs? Because I replaced the air suspension. You can, if you want, keep that. I wouldn't. This is a Dennis Kirk Progressive, and it's getting a little blurry because I shot it in cinematic mode, but I wanted to show a good amount of detail of the bike. But that Dennis Kirk, don't waste your time sitting here dealing with the air suspension, because it's gonna go to shit, and if you fix it, it's just gonna go to shit eventually anyway, or it's gonna cost you tons. And that's what these are right here. You got your front and rear air valves. I wouldn't put too much into that. A lot of people too, when they put the stereo system on here, they actually get rid of these speakers, or they'll replace them with a good set of tweets, but they put some mids in here. Sometimes they'll put them in here. They'll replace these tweets in the back. And then this front, or trunk, I'm sorry, I just showed you the front already. It holds a ton of shit. Me and my wife did a 700-mile trip, and she got 2 of the bags in a backpack, and then I had this bag right here. But do get something to hold these down, and make sure that these are grabbing it, because you'll lose these tops. And finding them is, sometimes you might have to get a different color one or source a different color one. I want to say these wheels, I think that's a 17 up front. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. The Dunlops that they recommend that came on the bike, I think they're 303 or something like that. Don't go get those. Get anything else, because they're not rated for the weight of the bike. And when you start packing it down, you feel that. And that's a brand new Dunlop. Now, when you're in the cockpit, so I'm 6'4". That's my Bigfoot sticker, by the way. It's a little tight, but it's tight because I'm not used to it. And I wouldn't try to mod too much, because you can pretty much get used to anything. And the color is really what I bought it for. If you want to know where do I get that color, I'd say 98 or a 99. Same color both years. They didn't really change a whole lot there. 1200cc. This bitch will outrun a brand new Road Glide 114. It hauls ass. It runs like, I looked it up online, and I mean, maybe, you know, somebody on YouTube knows better than I do. Go ahead and call bullshit, but I'm pretty sure it ran a damn 12-second quarter mile. I'm gonna start it up, because I didn't see any reviews really that showed that. So let me go ahead and set this here for just a quick second, and we'll get it started up. You can actually hear what it sounds like. So I did have to warm it up. It doesn't take a lot of time to warm it up, and you can drive it with the clutch. Just make sure you put your clutch back on when you come back down in this choke, and if you leave it on there, I don't know, if you know bikes, you know you'll foul the plugs out after a while. I do have this case off of here, and it's because I just replaced my clutch and I had to bleed that slave cylinder. But the part, if you looked in here earlier in my trunk, you'll see that in there. But it'll cover it right back up. Bike looks sharp when it's on. It looks good now. But yeah, I'd say I'm kind of considering, I got a DR650 and I'm wanting to put a lot more effort into that bike, and I already have a V-Rod, so I'd be a little bit sad to see this one go, but it does sound good. But I would be sad to see it go. But my DR, I live where it's hot, and it's just a better hot weather bike. This is okay in traffic and in heat and hot weather. It's great around town. It's awesome down the highway. But I got 4 kids, so if I got to do a project on this thing or any kind of major repair like that clutch, just finding the time to do that and a place to do that, that was hard, man. And make sure you get the right shit for it if you do get it. Yeah, because that clutch, that thing was a son of a bitch because they sent me the wrong parts. But it has some green LEDs. I don't think that they were factory, but they're stuck in right here. I love the green and gold color though. But going down the road, if you want to know what it's like going down the road, this is a clear view shield, by the way. It's not stock. If you want to know what this bike is like going down the road, it's insanely smooth and comfortable, and you don't hear shit. It's like driving a wing, man. If you're looking at getting a wing and you don't want to invest really heavy into it, a lot of people might tell you not to, but these 1200s and 1500s, these early gen bikes, the Cavalcade from Suzuki, Honda Gold Wing, and this Voyager, they're awesome. I would say get a Voyager though, because all you got to do to get the manual is go join the American Voyager Association, log in on the web page, and any issue I've ever had with this bike, it got fixed by somebody, or somebody's knowledge rather, I should say. It got fixed by me sweating and cussing. But yeah, these little compartments, man, they didn't think about this back in '86, but they hold iPhones and shit perfect. I'm getting ready to replace these grips, but you do have hydraulic brakes. If they ever get low, your clutch, when it's coming out, it's going to be one of 2 things. You're either going to need to bleed, or you're going to have to put new plates on. That's going to be 2 of the first things that are going to be it. But once you know how to do some work on it, it's not too bad. The speakers, it's not going to sound like you're sitting in a car. It's going to sound like you got boat speakers, like little tweeters. And they're going to be super, super sharp. And they're going to have almost no bass at all. But as far as the electronics go, one other problem, speaking of speakers and stuff like that, this top of this wire harness, there can be corrosion down in there, and sometimes it gets a little sticky and you got to shake that wire. It scared the shit out of me the first few times that it happened, but you can be cozy on this thing. And Russell Daylong, they do make seats for it if you're interested. You see how this is missing, like these little parts? You can do something clever here. I've got to think of what I need to do here for it. I don't want to buy a whole new bag, especially if I'm considering selling the bike. But like I said, I love it, but I don't necessarily have the time to give it the love it deserves. And I want to put that into a bike that's already running good, but just needs some customizations done. But if you want to know anything about this Voyager, just mention it in the comments below, and I'll put up any sort of responses you have about it. That center stand down there, if you own a Voyager already, you don't know how to put that center stand up, I can make a little video showing you. It's super easy. You'd think it'd be hard because the bike's heavy. It's not as heavy as most other bikes though in the same category. I think this is like 740. But any questions like that, any experiences that I'm not mentioning, like, to sum it up, going down the road, it's going to be what you think it's going to be like. Oh, except for one thing, all these bikes, Gold Wings, Cavalcades, a lot of them, these front fork braces, they're not that strong. And don't take your hand off the wheel. because these bitches wobble. I've heard it from a lot of mechanics. I felt it on this bike, but I've heard that old 80s bikes and gold wings and stuff, I was like, they were first starting to get really heavy, but it seemed like some components maybe have been under-engineered on it. But do be careful of that. But it's nimble around town, it's good on the road. It's quiet. A 4-cylinder, it hauls ass. It's gonna outrun any Harleys. I mean, unless you're going up against like a damn V-Rod or something like that, something crazy, or like an Indian Scout, you're gonna get your ass kicked. But anything in that 12-second range, or like the big Harleys, I should say, like any of those 114 bikes, they're probably not gonna outrun it. It's probably gonna piss somebody off. There can be some debate about that in the comments section, but here she is. She's beautiful, and there's just not enough reviews on her. And I kind of feel like there should be. I feel like this bike deserves a little more attention than it's gotten. And maybe I sell it, maybe I don't. Maybe it becomes collectible, maybe it doesn't. But for however many people are wanting to look at this and figure out about it and hear shit about it that they're not seeing on the other reviews, look away, man. And like I said, have any questions, write them. Everybody that watched it, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.